Hey folks, today I'm pulling plants out of my 27-gallon cube and answering as many questions as possible. Oh my god, there were so many questions. Right after this. Hey folks, this is Pecktec and it is trim Q&A time again, and I've got lots and lots of questions. I actually had to cut off the question video. I marked it as unlisted simply because I had so many questions and I knew I'd never get through. I mean, I was already up to like 170 something questions. That doesn't even include the Twitter and the one Facebook one I got. I don't do a ton on the other social medias, you know, Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, but and Instagram. But I do a little bit, and if you want like behind the scenes stuff for things that are going on in the show, things that I do well in advance, be sure to check there. Now I was going to pull plants out of the 12-gallon also, but the 27 was way full. It took a long time to do, and I decided just to do that for today. Now of course one person is going to win this, Amazon Fire. It's really hard to tell just from the comment if they qualify. I can only send this to someone in the United States. I guess I could check pricing for Europe. But last time I mailed something to Europe especially, it was so expensive. Okay, first question out of the hat. This is from Zachary. What do you think about Eheim filters? I think they're pretty cool. I've only owned one, and it actually kind of malfunctioned and flooded my living room. But it was used, and it was a really old one. So I don't hold anything against Eheim for that particular debacle. But yeah, from what I understand, I haven't had an opportunity to own one. Like a newer one or anything, but from what I understand, they're really good. People love them. I hear people talking about it all the time. Jackson, how do you treat mold in an aquarium, and how do you prevent it from happening again? I don't think I've actually ever gotten mold in my aquarium. There's a fungus that'll grow up sometimes out of the wood and stuff. That might be what you mean. And apparently, like a mono shrimp, love that stuff. They'll eat it up, and but I'm never entirely sure what it is. If I ever have it, it's really short-lived. Usually brand new wood will have some white fuzz and stuff on it, but I don't really get mold around the aquarium or anything. See, Tyler wants to know, would you ever get a large saltwater tank and have corals and fish? Well, if I did a saltwater tank, that's the way it'd have to be. It'd have to be a big one. I really would love to do corals, but that adds another layer of complexity. I might start with maybe just some really interesting fish. I love shrimp. The thing that tempts me to saltwater the most is the invertebrates. So I could see just doing a coral tank with just a couple of maintenance kind of creatures in there with it, and especially some shrimp. That being said, it's such a pain in the ass, I'm not going to do it. Gabor P, aka Super Long Comment Dude, he says, okay, Sean, here is one. What happened to the blue German rams? You had tried, and they laid some eggs. Did they do it again? Yes, they did it again, and they ate them again. So both times they've laid eggs, they kind of look at them for a day, and then they eat them. I think my next plan for the rams is probably to take them away from this window. I should have done that before winter time. Maybe I've got a heater in there, but I think it still might get a little cold, or at the very least that heater's working harder than it needs to. So I'm going to pull them out of the window, and I'm going to put them in another room to kind of warm things up. They're starting to get a little old, so I don't know if they'll ever actually breed. He also wanted to know how the clones are doing, and so did a lot of other people. And, well, Charlie's behind the camera. We've got him. Oh, yeah. What's the state? Have you seen your brothers? Hello. Yeah, thanks to everyone that asked about us. We're doing okay, or at least I'm doing okay. Jeff B wrote us and said that he saw the clones recently, so they apparently just disappeared, and hopefully they'll come back, but I haven't seen them in a long time. I'm getting worried. If you see them, be sure to let me know. All right, good luck, Charlie. We're all pulling for you, okay? It was hard to feed all those guys, but, you know, I liked having them around. Nolan asks, have you ever moved when you had a planted tank, or did you just have to start over completely, or were you able to transport it somehow? Oh, well, if you don't have to move very far, you can pull your fish out, you pull all your water out and put it into like a 5-gallon bucket if that's big enough, or, you know, several 5-gallon buckets if it's a bigger tank. And you can take take all the fish that are inside and put them in that water, and then you drain it down just as far as it'll go, like maybe, you know, right at the surface of the water, and then you just transport it. You can cover up the top with cellophane or something to kind of keep the moisture trapped inside there so the plants won't just completely freak out. But if you do it really quick and you don't have a long way to go, you can transport and move a plant and tank. It's just a little bit more complicated. I think when you move a tank, it's probably optimal to take everything out of the tank, because as you kind of the shifting weight and stuff can cause problems. And of course, in aquascape, you know, rocks and things like that can tumble over. So you'll have to make sure that all your stuff is really secure inside the bottom of it before you try to move it around a whole lot. All right, Akiri 8681, your favorite substrate to use for a nano planted tank. Right now, ADA Amazonia. Okay, Brooks asks, have you ever bought fish online? If so, what site was it and what did you get? I went to missjinxed.com and I got several fish. You can learn all about it in my video, Fish by Mail. Is that right? I think it's Fish by Mail. Go check it out. It's one I did just last year, really recently with Rachel O'Leary, and it's cool. It was a good experience. I actually haven't done it much other than that. I've done it one other time from, I don't want to get it wrong and I can't remember exactly what it's called, the Cichlid Garden. And Rachel's great too, and she really goes out of her way to make sure you know what you're getting and what to expect. Matthew asks, do you have any emerald dwarf rasboras in any of your tanks? No, not right now. I'd like to get some though. Ben asks, cardinals or neons? I like cardinals. I like it because the red goes all the way across. That's the main difference between them. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of differences, but that's my favorite difference. That counts. Lewis, what made you start a YouTube channel? Wow, I could do like an hour-long video on that. The short answer is I thought it'd be fun to share. Like I was going into the forums and talking and stuff, but I don't communicate really well by typing, so I thought it might be easier just to shoot a video to explain things. And then I started watching other people's videos about aquariums and stuff, and I was like, I can do that. And I tried it, people liked it, I just kept doing it. And now, later on after editing became a big thing for me, I kind of wanted to go to film school, but most people, even teachers at film schools, have said, don't do that, just make films. So I decided to kind of just up my game on YouTube and see how it goes. This actually all started from a public access channel. I was going to try to do like a Wayne's World thing. But I didn't want to limit myself to Knoxville. I want to talk to the whole world. And I want to know all the numbers and statistics and everything else. So, YouTube. Alright, onward. Morgs. What do you do with the fish that grow out of your tank or that you just get bored of? Well, I haven't really had a fish that I just got so bored of I had to get rid of them. I have had fish that have made me angry. Or perhaps, not behaved well with the co-inhabitants of my tanks. They were inappropriately housed in my tanks, and I've returned them to the fish store. A lot of times, like if you take a fish and you grow it up to a larger size, it's actually worth more. So the fish store might take it back so they can sell it, or they might give you credit for it if it's something that's it's expensive to grow a fish up to a larger size. So you can do that, but you should never have a goal of doing that. Like it's a really bad idea. Like even in this 27-gallon cube, I've got a fish that I have to move out of there. A lot of the reason I'm trimming the tank today is just so I have a chance at netting it out. I put a Siamese algae eater in there, and they get pretty large and much larger than this 27-gallon cube should have. I put him in there to help control the algae, and boy, he really did. And I want to add him to the 55, but I have not been able to catch him. I put him in there when he's tiny, tiny little baby, and he's still like at an appropriate size. He's okay for now, but I really need to pull him out of there so he can kind of have some space. Olav, would you ever have too many aquariums? The amount of aquariums that you have relative to what's too many has to do with the amount of time you have to keep them up. If you've got time to keep them up, you can have as many as you want. When you start neglecting them because you don't have time, that's when it's time to take it down a few. Poseidon, wow, prestigious. What nano fish would you recommend for a 5-gallon Iwagima scape? I would put a scarlet batis in there, or you know, maybe a pea puffer or BB puffer or something like that. That would be kind of neat. You could also, if you had like one really cool guppy, I think that would look cool. One cool guppy, a nice beta, some endlers, maybe 3 endlers. Damien, howdy Peck, have you ever listened to Fire Hose, or do you have any opinions about Mike Watt? Mike what? Nope, I'm sorry, I've never heard of them, but I will definitely look them up. Matthew asks, can you use a power head on the lift tube of a sponge filter, or should I stick with an air stone? Oh, absolutely. You can stick a power head on the end of a sponge. I think it would work. I think that would work fine. You could shorten the life of your pump if the sponge ever got really, really clogged, but I think for the most part, that's fine. Native fish keepers, have you ever thought about getting a 100-gallon plus tank? Also, would you ever keep any native species? If you mean native to Tennessee, I think it's actually illegal for me to go collecting here. Now, I am going to tour a conservatory, a fishery that's here in Knoxville that's apparently really, really cool. And that'll be coming up this year at some point. We just kind of get our schedules together. As for the other part of the question, the 100-gallon, oh my gosh. Yeah, I've got to take all the aquariums out of my living room, the downstairs. I'm pulling all of these aquariums out. I'm not breaking them down necessarily, but I have to pull them all out. And I'm going to pull up all my carpet, and we're going to put tile down in there. And then I'm going to put aquariums back. But the aquariums that go back, I'm hoping to do a 125 where the 55 and the edge are. I'm going to put a 125 there. It's going to be a planted tank, not a saltwater tank. I'm just not ready for that yet. Sean H., from your personal experience, which fish would you consider the easiest or the hardest to care for? The easiest to care for is by far a live bearer type fish like guppies, platies, that sort of thing. Not necessarily mollies, but the hardest for me was definitely the scarlet batis, just because they're very particular about their diet. The other thing is they don't compete at all for food, so they really need to be kept on their own. So if I ever keep them again, I'm going to make sure I have a plan for their food and a tank just for them, just for those guys. Leslie, what are the best tools to use in a tank that is getting too deep to easily reach the bottom of? I have a Fluval Edge 12-gallon and I have a hard time getting to the bottom to pull out the dead plants and clean up stuff. I've had a number of different kind of grabby items over the years. If you Google like aquarium forceps, there are all kinds of lengths. Like the standard length is maybe 12 inches, but there are longer ones if you look. But I have over time, I've used forceps and I've used other little grabby things. I've got one that's like some scissors and also grabs, but it's not a very good product. That's why I don't talk about it much. Ray R., I have a question for you. I just planted some Valisaria, but most don't seem to have any roots. Will I see some root growth, or are they just going to die on me? I would just put it down in the ground, and then maybe in a week or so you could kind of pull it back up and take a look. You should see new root growth by then, and if you don't, it's probably on its way out. AB 1656. How do I keep my hang on the back filter media good for a long period of time? It seems to clog and use the overflow a lot. Whenever I do a water change, I put some of it into a bucket, okay? I take that bucket water and I use it to clean my filters. Now I don't clean my filters on every go around. On the aquariums where I can, and I've got like 2 kind of filters on there, I'll clean one, and then the next water change I'll clean the other. Really it's great for redundancy, especially the 55, to have 2 different filter systems going. But different filters have different issues. Whenever I've used the Mainland cartridges and stuff like that, they seem to clog up just right away and just kind of become useless. I started just cutting strips of things for these other filters that I have, and I just replaced those. I pulled the old one out and I put another one in there and I cleaned it out in the sink. It is really tough to keep those clean, and if you have a lot of driftwood, like I've got a lot of Malaysian driftwood especially, that will really clog up your filters because it's always sloughing wood off and that sort of thing. Remectolin. If you add a few more heads to that tank, you could pretend you're the governor from The Walking Dead. Yep, that was the idea. Brandon. Awesome tanks, first off. Question is, what lights do you use? I have a 10-gallon Nano Jungle and a 46-gallon bowl front with a few plants. How would you light these tanks for optimal growth? I have like every kind of light on my tanks. I've got compact fluorescents like these two. I've got LEDs on as many tanks as I can just because of power savings. When you got a lot of planted tanks, it costs some cash, you know, for electricity. So I try to put LEDs on as many as I can. I found that the LEDs I've made myself from Rapid LED work better than any of the other ones that I bought. On the cheap side, there are these floodlights. They're maybe 30 bucks or so. They come with the cord attached and everything. And I got them on Amazon, and you can see them. I featured them in a video, the Dirted Tank Part 2 Planted. Look that one up if you want more information on that. Rayleigh Hall. Hi, my name is Rayleigh. Soon I will be breeding guppies. Do you have any tips? Guppies are a lot of fun to breed. It's always really exciting to see like the new fish and stuff like that. So what I recommend is maybe some plants that you could put along the surface. I would recommend duckweed, but man, it is really hard to clean out duckweed. There's probably a good 15 minutes of this video of just me scooping out duckweed. So the other thing I'd recommend is to get like 3 or 4 girls and maybe 1 boy. You'll quickly have a tank full of guppies, but you don't want one female getting pestered continuously by one guppy. Also, live bearers like a little bit of salt in their tank, not necessarily brackish water, but you know, just a little bit more salt than usual. That really helps them. Feed them some meaty foods too, along with their flakes. You can do bloodworms or any of those other things, and you can get a lot of them freeze dried too. So, good luck, Rayleigh. I hope that helps. Clauditz Clang. What is your favorite aquarium plant? I would say Anubis. Anubias, whatever. Norman, should I dose Java moss? Thank you. I'm new to the hobby and really like your planted tanks. It certainly won't hurt. The big trick with Java moss is making sure you don't have algae in there too. So just keep your tank really clean and you'll have lots and lots of Java moss. It actually kind of goes everywhere. Crazy Good Times. What's a good filter idea for a 70-gallon tank? And what is a good, fast-growing plant? As far as filters, I love the new Tidal filters that Seachem put out. I've got mine. I've had it for a few days and think it's really great. Now, as far as fast-growing plants, none of them start off fast. They all start off slow. A lot of times they will pick up. In the right conditions, they do great. The little micro sword in my 55 quickly took over the whole side of the tank, and it's actually creeping around behind the other side of the aquarium. So probably micro sword would be the fastest I've had. All right, here's one from Lilani Dixon. I really miss your videos on specific fish and plants. I watched your nano fish videos and more nano fish, as well as your aquarium plants for beginners and more aquarium plants for beginners videos more times than I can count. Would you ever consider adding more of these to the series with new fish and plants you've tried since? Also, are you ever going to build that steampunk aquarium? Yes, absolutely. I've been in sort of a rebuilding period right now where I'm resetting some old tanks. Like, I'm trying to clear away my older tanks that I'm just tired of messing with, and but I don't want to disturb like the fish that live in there, so I'm doing it really, really slow. Plus, I've got a big project going on downstairs. Like I said before, I'm trying to rip out all that carpet. So I probably will be doing more specific things like that. So when I buy a plant or an animal, I might like get enthusiastic about it enough to talk about it a little bit more, but I'm not ever an expert at that, especially at that point. So it ends up being a little bit like a book report, and I do try to bring you guys good information and stuff like that I've researched, but I'm by no means an expert on any of those things, so sometimes I'm a little hesitant to do a lot of that sort of thing. But I will do more. And on the steampunk tank, yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. Actually, I want to go to the Big Fish Deal again. I need to go buy my tickets and make arrangements, but I'm going to go to the Big Fish Deal again, and I'm trying to make an aquarium that I can take with me. Something special, something different, and I did last year. I declared I would make a steampunk tank, but I don't know if it'll be that. It's going to be an unusual aquarium, but it has to be portable. A lot of my steampunk stuff is just not easy to transport, so I don't know if it'll be a steampunk tank or if I'll ever do it. I basically haven't done much of anything with steampunk in the past year or so. I just kind of got sick of it. So yes, maybe on that, but you will see something unusual in steampunk inspired soon. Bounce 1 FC. As a fish keeper, do you ever get tired of doing maintenance on your tanks and cleaning them? Yes. Moth Tank, can you do a video on some low light, low maintenance aquatic plants? Yes. Actually, I got 2 videos on that, aquarium plants for beginners and more aquarium plants for beginners. Amy P. Hi Sean, I'm relatively new to your channel and haven't watched all of your videos yet, so sorry if you've already answered these questions. I actually have a few. When and why did you start getting into aquariums? I've just always liked aquariums. I have memories of an aquarium when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, and they obviously didn't live very long. And I had one in high school, which again was a disaster. When I got into it as an adult, maybe 12, 13 years ago, I did a lot more reading, and of course there was the internet available to find out all this great information, and I was more successful, and then I became obsessed. What aquarium are you most proud of? Probably some of my Fluval Specs, the 5-gallon and now the 2.6 gallon over there, I think look really neat. What's my biggest aquarium fail? I flooded my living room. I flooded my living room with about 25 gallons of water when my canister filter had a fail. What advice do you have for people who are brand new to the hobby? Patience is the most important aspect of this hobby. I'm starting out and it's kind of overwhelming with all the options there are out there for filters, substrate, fish, etc. Not to mention that you have to know how to deal with algae and things like ammonium nitrate and nitrite level. All of that is overwhelming at first, but it's actually really, really simple. The more patient you are, the easier all these things are. The single most important algae fighting fact is to control the light. That's ambient light that gets into your aquarium, that's light from a window, that's light on the tank, that's got to be on a timer. It's just got to be on a timer. Your plants will appreciate the regularity of the light coming off and on in expected intervals, okay? And because of that, because they'll appreciate that and grow for you, that will deter the algae. And the extra light and stuff like that, that's, if there's more light than can be absorbed by the regular plants in there, algae will take advantage of every bit of extra light and nutrition that you offer it. But I've actually got videos on the nitrogen cycle. I talk about fighting algae all the time. A lot of times I just pluck it out. Just remember to do your maintenance. Do your maintenance whether you want to or not once a week, and it'll take care of a lot of the other issues. There's a lot of issues with aquariums that I've never had to deal with just because I keep a clean tank. Dallas K. How is the Tidal 55 hang on the back filter doing, and how does it compare to some of the other hang on the back filters you have? I've only had it for a few weeks, and I love it so far. I think that you can't even compare it to the Penguin. The closest thing I could compare it to would probably be my Aqua Clear, but I only have like a really small Aqua Clear, like one of the 20s, and it's very similar to that. Except that my Aqua Clear has to be primed all the time. I'll continually have kind of impeller problems and stuff. Now, it didn't start off that way. It took a long time to happen, so I can't say that the Tidal is going to be better. But I tell you right off the bat, it's almost cheating to put that pump in the tank below the water line because I've had so many incidents, especially with the Penguins, where I go away on vacation and maybe we have a power outage because of storms and stuff, and then I come back and it's just my pumps just chunk, 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 chunk. And that's part of the reason on the 55 where I went ahead and just put 2 of those Penguins on there, because inevitably one wouldn't start up and one would run. Jez, what is your favorite nano fish and what is your least favorite fish for a nano tank? I really love the BB puffer, but I want to make a perfect tank for a BB puffer before I get another one, and I also have to increase my snail population a little bit. And maybe my least favorite, I think my least favorite is the Galaxy Rasbora, because no matter how many of them I buy, and they're not cheap, but no matter how many of them I buy, they just disappear into the back of my aquarium, and I never see them, ever. Rick asks, when you trim the plants in the tank, what do you do with them? Well, you'll see in just a second. I give them away if I can. If you're from Knoxville or close to Knoxville and you'd like a couple of these plants, just send me a message. Rip7, do you have any other family members that are into the fish hobby? Yeah, my sister is a little bit. She had a puffer. She loves puffers. And I kept it for a little while, and then I helped take it back to her house when she moved in and that sort of thing. So, yeah, but not much. And she's about the only one, and everybody else just thinks I'm nuts. Kat wants to know, how do you get water residue lines off a tank? Thanks. Easiest way not to get those residue lines is to keep your tanks topped off all the time. That's kind of shorthand for I'm not sure. I usually scrape it off with an algae scraper, but I've scraped my glass a bunch doing that too, so I guess I can't really recommend it, but I try to keep mine topped off as much as I can. Like, that's probably as low as I'd let this one go. Abby, what is your favorite cleaner fish? It's not a fish, but I love amana shrimp. They eat more algae than any other creature at the same size. Yeah, so. Tracer, have you ever thought about starting an aquatic plant store? Ooh, that would be nice. That would be really cool. Unfortunately, my job's been going pretty well right now. I actually just got a promotion, and that's why my videos are a little less complicated, because I'm busy. Unfortunately, the comforts of a steady job preclude me starting up a business like that. I would much rather have a YouTube business. Steve, the zombie head tank, how long did it take to make the zombie head? Did you have it made, or did you buy it at a pet store? I guess it took me probably combined 3 or 4 hours, and it was all painting. I didn't have to make it. I got it at the craft store, and there's a whole video about it, the Walking Dead aquarium. Go watch that. Michael, did the zombie head tank need to be coated with anything to keep from leaching contaminants into the water? I used acrylic paint, and then I let it cure over 4 or 5 days. So it was nice and hard. And acrylic paint, once it cures, is perfectly safe. JK Aquatics. Hey Sean, what is the appeal for you having so many small aquariums and fish versus having large aquariums and fish? I love small things. I'm like especially weirdly interested in tiny things. Also, I like the process of making something new. And if I did one big tank, that whole process would be over really quickly, and there would be nowhere to do it again. So because I'm not Oliver Knott, traveling all over the world, just aquascaping all the time, then you know, I keep it small. Just because they're a little easier to manage, I can shuffle them around, I can move them around, and I like to push the boundaries of how small I can make things. I've stopped putting fish in a lot of the really tiny ones, but they're fine for shrimp, and there are things that can live in there and do just fine. All right, from Nathan. Hey, Pecktec, I'm going off to college and I have 2 tanks to set up. I don't know if I should try and keep them or tear them down. They are at least 40. They are a 40 and a 46 gallon, so I just can't take them with me. If you have any sort of advice, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for watching, Nathan. I would tear them down. I would take your fish to a store and try to get credit for them, unless you have another friend that wants to start a tank. It depends on a lot of scenarios. If you're not in a position where you can maintain them, then I recommend you sell them and maybe just start over when your life gets a little bit more stable. Concentrate on your college and that stuff. Your life will be more stable soon, and as you start to settle down and get a place of your own where you can maintain an aquarium or that sort of thing, just start again. Okay, I'm going to pull out the last question and the winner of the Kindle Fire. You guys ready? Not looking, not looking. Oh. Siren Sea Reviews. You have won a Kindle Fire. I'm going to be in touch with you, and I'll mail this out. Now on to your question, Sean. When you got started in the hobby, what was your first tank, and what did it have in it? If you had a 200-gallon tank or more in your office, what type of aquascape would you do, and what kind of fish would you keep? Woo. Okay, so for my first tank, it was a 6-gallon Mainland Bio Wheel, one of those little tiny Eclipse tanks, and I got it for Valentine's Day. And we went, and the first fish I had in there were, I think I had 2 guppies and a platy. But I've got some tanks like the 55 and that 30-gallon. Those tanks were like my next tanks after that 6-gallon tank, and they've been running up this whole time. The 6-gallon eventually got scratched up and replaced. It was just a little acrylic thing. So, And as for the next question, this office here is above a garage, so a 200-gallon tank would probably send the whole house crashing down. I'm already kind of shaky ground here. But if I could do a 200-gallon tank, I would do probably lots and lots of angelfish. I think that would look cool. I'd like to, probably just escalate what I've already done. Thank you guys so much for all your questions and all the views and stuff. The number one rule of YouTube is no one ever watches all of your videos, right? Now, I know some of you have probably seen a lot of my videos, but hardly anyone's ever seen all of your videos. So I'm fine with it if you ask me a question about something that I've already done a review for. So please forgive me if I just point you to that video, because I don't expect you to know they're all there. That being said, every aquarium video I've ever made is in a playlist called All Aquariums Playlist. I also have other playlists with more specific subject matter and that sort of thing, but anything that had anything to do with aquariums is in the All Aquariums playlist. You can literally watch that for days. Please watch that for days. That'd be great. What I recommend is that you just kind of turn it on and just let it play all day long. Now, as for the plants, if you're wondering why I put them in the buckets, I'm just kind of saving them for another time. I'm gonna use these plants for another project. I'd like to give a few of them away. If you're in Knoxville and you'd like some plants, or near Knoxville and want to come out to Knoxville, meet me at the aquarium and get some plants, let me know. I'd be happy to give you a couple. This little bucket container thing is yet another kind of experiment to see if I can keep plants alive without having to set up a proper aquarium. But that's all I have for you today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec and it's Trim Q&A again. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec and it's Trim Q&A time again. That is so hard to say. Except that my aqua rubby nose trim throat. What I would do is just go ahead and put it in, and after a few days, maybe like a week or so, if it looks like it's dying, it's not going to make it.